Why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself? Tell us kind of where you started, how you got into writing, and then how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, sweet, of course. So look, I'm coming up on 30 now this year, so that's gonna be fun. I've been writing for about half my life. I've been writing since I was 15. I've always been a creative person. I tried to get my hand into stop motion animation when I was like 11 or 12, with all your little plasticine models and taking like 24 pictures of them to make only a second of footage. It turns out that I'm not that patient. Um, but I always knew that I like to have a lot of control over the way I create things. So I could never really get into an art form where I'd have to work with other people. Not to say that I'm not a team player, but I do my best when I'm left alone to do my own thing, right? Um, so I've been writing books kind of for myself since I was 15. And it was only like when I was about 21 or 22 that I started figuring out how to write, good books, which, takes some time, right? Especially, when you're a teenager, because like I don't think that any book a teenager has written ever comes out as something that's good, right? Like you're still
Hmm.
figuring yourself out. Um, so
Very,
yeah, I've
very
been
rare exceptions.
very, very rare exceptions, definitely. I'll allow for those. Those can be
Yeah.
read through. Um, so yeah, when I was 21, I kind of got the idea for the Drought Lands, which is the big desert land that all my books are set in at the moment. So it's this big red dune swept apocalyptic wasteland with this extinct sci-fi civilization buried underneath, where the magic that wiped those people out that was left behind is like this radioactive hazard for the people who go down there to find the treasures or like other remnants of technology that they're looking for. um, and it took me a while to figure out how to make the kind of first few stories really stick in that land, because I always found myself caught between multiple time periods in that world. Like there was the present, which I tried to set the stories in. There was the time of the uh, extinct sci-fi people, and then there was another time kind of in the middle of that for something else. Then I was always kind of having a lot of trouble making characters kind of make all those three things relevant. And I only started to figure it out like in the past 2 or 3 years. In the intervening time outside of writing, I'd gotten into tech sales. And, especially during COVID, it turns out you can make a fair bit of cash off that. So I found myself in about 2022 sitting on a pretty hefty nest egg. So I decided, what, I'm going to make a run of this. I'm going to be a full time self published author for a bit. I'm just going to churn out as many books as I possibly can. Which is kind of a lot of the self-publishing advice you get. Make as many books as you can. That's when the advertising starts to work. That's when you start to get a following. So I've been trying to publish a full novel every 5 months and succeeding so far, which is really good. Um, but yeah, it's been a really fun ride to kind of learn and develop. And one of the quirks that I've come into that with is that I came in with two almost finished books for two different series that were set in the same world. So I've been alternating releases between the two. So I've got the Flux Catastrophe books, which are a bit more Mad Max. They're a bit more combat, battle based. They're more action. And then I've got the First Hythero books, which are set 30 years after all that as their own entire separate story and really the backbone to every story I'm trying to tell here, which are a bit more like if Last Airbender met June, for instance. So I'm getting a lot of different flavors through, which is really nice. It's just trying to keep the different stories straight in my head and make sure I don't paint myself into a corner is the hard bit that I'm tackling now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome that you're able to do that. I think that's kind of the dream almost to have that little bit of a nest egg to just be like, "Hey, I'm going to really go for it and try for it," because that's always like the hardest part of when do you make the jump, you know?
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
but man, a full book every 5 6 months, that is impressive. That's cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why I can do it is the alternating series thing. So while, yeah, that's a really fast way to get out a book. Each book essentially has like 10 months from conception to publishing to fully brew. So I'll get like the first draft done over the course of 3 to 4 months. And I'll be doing that while like another book is in its edit phases or in its proofreads or going out to ARC readers and stuff like that. So I'm constantly bouncing back and forth between them. And it means that each story has like enough time to brew. Because if I stuck with the one series, I'd be overlapping myself. Like I'd have to start writing the next book while the first one was still in its early edits, which just wouldn't work.
Yeah. So are the 2 series, are they not in the same world at all, or are
They
they
are in the same world,
but
yeah.
they're
So they're
like
both set in the Drought Lands. Yeah, they're just
yeah.
kind of like 30 years apart. There's Easter eggs and stuff between them, and that makes it really fun when like it comes to the reading order, because you can actually read it in different orders to get different perspectives and perceptions on things. So I'm hoping like once I get the all the series out, because I'm planning about 14 books in total, kind of set here for now.
Mhm.
There's going to be like enough different ways you can read it that there's just going to be a constant fan argument on the internet about the best way to read
Yeah.
it.
Which is
Nothing.
which is
No,
great
go
for
on.
you as an author because it just kinda
Yeah,
sets it up for, like, people always talking about it and,
that's it.
that's yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had the same. So I haven't published anything, but I'm working on my stories and everything, and that's kind of the whole point of this whole YouTube channel was being on the writing quest.
Mm,
But I did the same thing where like I had a couple of ideas, and this it was going to be like a trilogy, and then I thought, well, there's stories in this time period, and there's stories in this time period, and now I've got this kind of 13 book crazy outline going for all of this, and but I did the same thing where I was like there's just so many stories I could tell within this framework.
yeah, definitely. Like it's just it's overwhelming sometimes. Like it's just too much stuff to actually wrap your head around. So like I do often have to pull myself out of like that big picture thinking. Just think, all right, what needs to happen in just the next scene? Only the next scene. The next scene can do whatever it wants, and I'll let that change everything else.